There's about 2,000 to 3,000 kids at any given time in our local foster care system here in the greater Sacramento area. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of kids that are living in situations where there's neglect, physical abuse, maybe sexual abuse, and it's just not reported because it's not seen. The homelessness ratios, they say 90% of homeless youth and adults came from broken homes. 80% of the people going to prison or to juvenile hall are coming from broken families. This is an epidemic, and it's all interconnected. And so if we bring together not just the agencies serving foster youth, but the ones serving refugees, homeless families, child trafficking agencies, then we can see so many more of the cracks in the system filled.
Hi, I'm Jeff Holden. Welcome to the Nonprofit Podcast Network. Our purpose and passion is to highlight a nonprofit organization in each weekly episode, giving that organization an opportunity to tell their story in their words to better inform and educate the respective communities they serve, as well as provide one more tool for them to share their message to constituents and donors. Our goal is to help build stronger communities through shared voices and to both encourage and support the growth of local nonprofit organizations through podcasting. Thanks to our founding partners for their foresight in helping us transform the way conversations start. CapTrust, fiduciary advice for endowments and foundations. Runyon Saltzman Incorporated, RSE, marketing, advertising, and public relations creating integrated communications committed to improving lives. And Western Health Advantage, a full-service healthcare plan for individuals, employer groups, and families. Before the episode begins, I want to take a minute to share that we now have a website where you can sign up to get our weekly email updates on the latest episodes, transcripts to prior episodes, and see what else we have going on. Please be sure to register so you never miss an episode or any other important information we may have to share in the nonprofit space. You can find us now at nonprofpod.com. That's nonprofpod.com. You'll also notice on the website a microphone in the lower right-hand corner. By clicking on it, you'll be able to leave me voicemail messages, maybe a question you'd like me to ask our guests, or just a comment on the program. I may even play your message in an upcoming episode. I look forward to more engagement with you as we continue to grow and better serve our nonprofit community. Thanks. When you hear that 2 out of 3 children have experienced trauma before the age of 16, it can't help but rock you a bit. It did me. And there are many agencies working to support families, foster youth, adoptive families, families in crisis, even our resettling families of refugees. Many of these agencies serve common purposes. What if there was a way for them to come together, to gather collectively to learn and build even greater support? Maybe through something like, well, an alliance. Tiffany Loeffler is the founder and executive director of this organization, and if the need wasn't evident for these agencies to have a central source to share and build out support, the Alliance, defending the cause of kids and families, likely wouldn't have seen the growth you're about to hear. What an incredible solution to some of the challenges these agencies deal with, and what a brilliant way to reshape and package information and direction to not only the families in need, but for the collective group of those nonprofits serving those families as well. To see what's happening to support those children and families in our community is most enlightening and encourages hope that we can begin to minimize the volume of children experiencing trauma as a result of a shared and concerted effort. Tiffany Loeffler, welcome back to the Nonprofit Podcast Network.
Thanks, Jeff.
So I say welcome back because you are one of the first organizations that we did out of the virtual event pandemic episodes. And that was toward the end of 2021, I believe, over 3 years ago.
Wow.
I can't wait to talk about what's changed in those 3 years.
Me too.
So this will be exciting. Your experience with the Alliance started when?
I think my heart for vulnerable kids actually started back in high school. I was recognizing that all of my friends wanted to come and spend time at my house. I had an intact family, and we did a lot of family game nights and had a lot of fun together. And so I started realizing that that wasn't everyone's experience. And so years later, after college, when my husband and I got married, we were looking at adoption as plan A for building our family. And so I was recognizing that there were lots of kids locally and globally that didn't have safe homes, that didn't have parents, that didn't have that supportive network that I had around me. And so I think that's really kind of what birthed this idea of there's something all of us can do to help kids here in our community.
Boy, that's a lot of foresight at such a young age. You must have been in the house with the games and the video games and the Pac-Man and all that at the time, right?
I don't think we even had video games. It was the ping pong table, the basketball hoop, the swimming pool, and the backyard house.
Still real active outside activities
Yes.
for kids.
Yes, really fun things.
Even better. So what was it that gave you the genesis or the insight to start something like the Alliance? Where did that originate?
Yeah, after I visited an orphanage in 2010, Haiti had their giant earthquake that year, and my husband and I got to go on a relief team in the summer of 2010. And so my heart completely broke for kids in overseas orphanages. Seeing that level of poverty, that level of hunger and just depravity broke my heart. So that's actually why we did an international adoption for our first two kids. But I quickly realized that the foster care system and the at-risk youth right here in the greater Sacramento area really needed support as well. And so I started rallying people in my church and community around foster agencies and started making connections with lots of the nonprofits, especially in Placer County at the time.
So when you did the adoption from Haiti, did you get some sense of the challenges that we had back home here as a result of that? Is that where you saw some of the dysfunction?
We did. On the legal side, our adoption took 6.5 years. So I had quite a bit of processing of understanding how human trafficking works. We started all of our paperwork in 2011, not knowing that orphanage was a human trafficking ring. And so I kind of describe it as jumping into the deep end of the pool because all of a sudden filling out the paperwork seemed like the easy part. We ended up having to use 5 different attorneys and 3 different agencies and go through multiple appeals before our kids were finally approved to come home from Haiti in 2017. So I started understanding the global side first, but recognizing that legislative changes and difficulties happen here for refugee youth, for foster youth, for families that are going through trafficking of a child or bullying even of a child. There's so many different forms of trauma.
When you were going through that process, it was the same 2 children over the course of 6 years that had to wait to get to the United States, knowing that they have somebody that's working on trying to adopt them?
Correct.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, that's rough, certainly on both sides, but I would imagine even more so on the children who are in a less than desirable environment.
Exactly. It was a lot of going and visiting. I went 26 times. My husband went 40 times, but it was going and leaving. And so we were realizing that we were even creating those traumatic moments for our kids whenever we had to leave country and not bring them home with us. So
how long were those gaps each time before you got to see them?
3 or 4 months each time.
And were they just in an orphanage?
For part of the time, that orphanage was closed. Thankfully, the government did step in and shut the orphanage down and arrested the senior leaders there that were trafficking the kids. But then they bounced around between birth mom and other people who were willing to kind of be foster parents for them until the adoption finalized. So they had quite a bit of transition.
Boy, that's rough.
It was for them. It was for us, but it was definitely more so for them.
Yeah, I can just imagine the unsettling. We already know that foster children are so challenged by home to home to home to home.
Right.
Here you're in another country knowing that you have somebody that wants you and you just can't get away from the other environment.
Exactly.
Wow. So that was 3 years ago. How are they doing today?
It was actually 2017, so it's 7 years.
17. I'm sorry, 3 years ago that we spoke. It was 2017 that you got them, yes.
Yeah, they've been home 7 years. They're doing well. They're 18 and 20. Awesome. They came home at 10 and 13. My 18-year-old's finishing up. He's in junior year of high school, and he's playing football for West Park High School. And then my daughter just started her first semester at Sierra College.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's definitely a navigation of learning to adult and working on those trauma responses and trying to heal things that are still very much present in their histories, but we're definitely seeing forward progress.
Well, and then the acclimation to to a whole new world once you get here is not an overnight situation.
Right. There's definitely some culture shock. Their English is amazing now, though. They both, especially my son, the 18-year-old, he's a high communicator, so his English is excellent.
I'll bet you they have a nice accent, too.
They do. Yeah.
Very neat. That experience with adoption does give you a unique perspective, and we scratched the surface on it just a minute ago, but how does that now play into what has become the Alliance.
Absolutely. So as I was navigating my own journey, becoming an adoptive mom and searching for resources and understanding trauma, but still living in it is an entirely different experience. I had several friends who were marriage and family therapists or counselors or social workers on speed dial, especially those first couple of years. And I recognize that anybody willing to say yes to a youth that has had a major life disruption, a major trauma, again, it could be from a loving home and then they have a death in the family, or they were bullied, or they have a really difficult experience with a parent having cancer. Those things are traumatic events for kids, all the way into trafficking and foster care and being a refugee coming from a war-torn country. Those disrupt children's brains and it affects their development, and it makes it really hard because they tend to push away from safe authority figures or parental figures. They tend to act out what they cannot talk out. And so the need for a connected community of resources was evident to me early on in my adoption journey.
As you struggle to find whatever that situation may have been.
Exactly. I was blessed to have several people step up and say, I'll come to your house. I'll take your kids. I'll come and do some nurture groups or some play sessions. I'm here for therapy. But most families aren't that interconnected. I had already been in this space for 3 or 4 years before our kids were approved to finally come home. And so really the Alliance was birthed out of the idea that all kids in our community need support. The new data post-COVID is that 2/3 of kids will experience a major traumatic event before they turn 16. That number's not different depending on community. And so that happens in low-income neighborhoods. That happens in really nice neighborhoods. That happens in all schools. And so if we built something where all the organizations serving vulnerable kids were working together, we would see those organizations have what they need. We would reduce the gaps in the system, and we could connect families who are saying yes to kids or who are raising those kids biologically with more resources quicker.
66 out of 100 children experience trauma
by the time they turn 16.
By the time they turn 16.
Yes.
Boy, that's a significant number, which tells us that the need is there for support.
Yes.
And better yet, proper support so that we can get to the root cause of it as opposed to treating the symptoms of the trauma, which could manifest themselves in bullying and crime and keep going.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
Drugs, et cetera.
They say that what's broken in relationship, and most of our deepest wounds are because of someone else, and they often happen in relationship. Those things can only be healed in healthy relationships. And so one of our goals is to create healthier relationships between parents and caregivers, between teachers and students, between social workers and the kids on their caseload. This is an opportunity for us as adults to first address things in us and to become healthy and securely attached, and then to just offer that to kids. We can't enforce it, but we have to offer it. And so when we come to kids in healthy and healing ways, then we see dramatic amounts of healing happen in their lives too.
So 2016-ish, the Alliance is born.
Yes.
What does it look like at that point in time? What do people see it as?
Yep. It was a collective. It was kind of almost like a brainchild of multiple leaders. I gathered together everybody working in the at-risk youth space that I knew at the time, and we hosted several brainstorming meetings to say, what would it look like to start a new nonprofit, but one that's not going to step on any toes, one that's going to be very collaborative. We wanted to leave logos and egos at the door and say, what are the gaps in the system, and what does each of your organizations need in order to be successful, and let's build a collective around that.
You know, it's interesting, as you said that, I couldn't help but reflect on something that it's mission, not organization.
Right.
And at the beginning of the Alliance, it's exactly what you were saying.
Yes.
It's how do we come together, leave logos at the door, which is so significant. A little bit ahead of your time there, Tiffany.
Well, I see these connections. I love looking at strategy and I love looking at trends. And so I was recognizing very early on that there's about 2,000 to 3,000 kids at any given time in our local foster care system here in the greater Sacramento area. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. The other 80% of the iceberg are all of the kids in unsafe situations who are maybe being just forced into situations that are unhealthy at school or unhealthy at home, and there's nobody that's reporting it yet. So there's a lot of kids that are living in situations where there's neglect, physical abuse, maybe sexual abuse, and it's just not reported because it's not seen. And so the homelessness ratios, they say 90% of homeless youth and adults came from broken homes. 80% of the people going to prison or to juvenile hall are coming from broken families. This is an epidemic.
Yes.
And it's all interconnected. And so if we bring together not just the agencies serving foster youth, but the ones serving refugees, homeless families, child trafficking, anti-trafficking agencies, then we can see so many more of the cracks in the system filled.
And we can see it. I mean, even the teachers in school can see it, where that family is dysfunctional. Maybe there's a parent home all the time. Isn't the parent home at all times?
Right.
Or there's only one parent. If there are two parents, maybe it's not a healthy relationship. Back to your trauma of 66%
right. There's a lot of latchkey kids. Their
Yes.
parents either both work full-time or they have a single parent that is, working two jobs. And so they're fending for themselves. They might be parentified. The oldest child is taking care of the younger kids
right.
in the home. They're missing out on their childhood, but it's necessary. That's just how they operate.
Parentified. That's a new word for me. I haven't heard that. So we learned something really significant that we can use in everyday conversation there.
That's right.
I like that. What is the scope of the Alliance? You mentioned broken homes and families.
Yes.
We certainly talked about foster children. What is the actual scope in terms of who does participate in it? And then we'll have a couple of follow-up questions that are natural on that.
Yeah, we partner with foster and adoption agencies. We partner with any nonprofit with services for at-risk youth. We partner with churches who have ministry opportunities to serve kids in the community, and professionals and support services. So support groups that are operating, professional attorneys or social workers or counselors or therapists, anybody in the space of serving at-risk youth.
And what's the geography that you encompass?
We say it's the greater Sacramento area, but that's 5 counties, actually.
Right.
We've expanded since we last spoke. I think we were just covering 4 counties at that time. And so we added Nevada County because several of the organizations that we partner with now are located in Nevada County. But Sacramento, Placer, Yolo, El Dorado, and Nevada County.
And then do you do east and west on Placer and El Dorado? You go all the way up to Tahoe?
We do. Yep.
Wow,
we have
that's
some
a lot
of our
of
services.
turf.
Yeah, people,
That's a lot of turf.
we want to make it close enough. We're not planning to expand beyond those 5 counties. This is a model that could be replicated in other areas because regional alliances are really beneficial to the entire fabric of a community. But for us, for this alliance, we really want to focus on things where people can access resources and connect with each other and actually form relationships with people they're going to meet face to face.
So I'm a nonprofit in that space.
Yes.
Whether it's foster youth or benefit to students in school, whatever it may be. What's the benefit to me to join the Alliance? What can I expect to get out of it?
Yes, we have 3 goals. And so the first goal with the Alliance is connecting organizations with each other and with needed resources. And so we recognize early on that organizations actually don't work together, people do. So one of the things the Alliance does is we create an interconnected community where those leaders have opportunities to meet each other, build relationships, foster trust, have some vulnerability. And then all of a sudden, you see those organizations start partnering together on maybe a project, a program, a fundraiser, a new resource that they're launching in the community, maybe a grant application that they want to co-author together. And so we get together either in person or online. Since the pandemic hit, we didn't miss a beat. We just moved some things to online. But we get our Alliance together 4 times a year. We do quite a few introductory emails. So as soon as a new group joins the Alliance, we're introducing them to everybody we feel like they should know in their sector. And then we also are launching a brand new resource next Wednesday, which is
for the benefit of somebody who's listening, this is November of 2024.
Yes.
Thanksgiving week.
It is.
So we have something to be thankful for that's coming up.
We do. We recently received funding to create a white label online community. And so the Alliance is going to now house an online desktop and mobile version app to enhance collaboration throughout our community on an ongoing basis. And so it'll house all of our Learning Center courses, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but it'll also have all these different spaces where leaders can ask each other questions, share resources, celebrate each other's wins, find everybody in a directory, locate organizations on a map. It'll be really holistic to allow collaboration to happen 365 days a year.
Oh, I can't wait to see the app.
Me too.
That is very cool.
Finalizing build out this week.
Very, very cool.
Yeah. So unity and connection with resources is number 1. Number 2 is mobilizing the community to get involved. So most nonprofits, they need donors and they need volunteers.
So
we
this
recognize
is community,
that.
not the nonprofit community. You're talking about community at large.
We are talking about the community at large. So one of the Alliance's goals is to raise the awareness of childhood trauma so that we can mobilize more people to volunteer and donate. Sometimes that's donating funds. Sometimes that's donating items. So the Alliance creates a centralized platform for all of that. We have a fully customized needs database that people can go to, the 11 Action Database. They can look for volunteer opportunities or they can look for donation needs, and that our members have full access to. So they have their own portal, they're posting their requests, and then the community is meeting those needs. We also do drives 3 times a year, so our organizations don't necessarily have to anymore. So we do an emergency supply drive for kitchen supplies, bathroom supplies, and bedding in the spring, a backpack drive in the summer, and then our holiday drive, which is coming up in December. But we do Christmas gifts for thousands of kids, and it really either supplements the programs and drives that our members do, or they've stopped doing them altogether because they know that we can supply what they need.
So those drives are then distributed in some
far and
fashion
wide
to all the organizations
exactly.
as
so
they need.
Community service groups, individuals, churches, the community at large gets blasted out these opportunities to make a difference.
Where do you house all this stuff when it comes in?
Our office is filling up right now. We turn it into Santa's workshop every December, and so we also have an offsite storage unit that is very full right now.
Yeah, I can only imagine, with other organizations that we know do the same.
Yes.
That this is a tough time because you just overwhelm with stuff.
Yep. We have bikes. We have all sorts of things taking over our office right now, which is a good problem to have.
It is a great problem to have.
Our third category is trauma-informed education. That was one of the big requests when we were having those first roundtable meetings, is we need a way to equip everywhere from the beginner volunteer to organizational staff to even, education for counselors and therapists as new research comes out. And so the Alliance really is stepping up in that education space. We host an annual childhood trauma conference where we're bringing in top experts from our region to highlight what they know and to give us more trauma-informed tools. We teach an 8-week in-depth parenting class that's trauma-informed twice a year. And then we also have an online learning center. So parents, caregivers, teachers, anybody who wants to work with kids in a more trauma-informed way can hop on and take a class at any time.
Almost like a certification.
Yeah, they come with a certificate at the end. We wouldn't say that they're certified, but they definitely will be much more trauma-informed and have some new tools in their tool belt after any of our classes.
Yeah, certainly than they were prior, for sure. Summarize those 3 for me again.
So
1, 2, 3.
connection, we're connecting them with each other and resources. We're mobilizing our community. So all of our members are going to have more donors, more volunteers, and we're providing trauma-informed education.
Wonderful. Boy, I talk about scope. That is scope. That is huge scope for a lot of organizations. Now, this is fun because we had this conversation just a few minutes ago before we started. In 2021, when we were talking, you had roughly 50 organizations participating. Here we are 3 years later, almost 3 years to the day.
Yes.
And we are at what number?
As of yesterday, 100 organizations.
That's amazing.
It is amazing.
To think that you've doubled. Well, just look at how far you've come. Now you've got an app. You've got 100 organizations that you're servicing. You've got a warehouse full of stuff that you need for the drives that you do.
Yes.
And I can only imagine what the courses look like when people come in for the educational process. And how many children and families you're touching in the grand scheme of things through the tentacles of all the other organizations.
Absolutely.
We'll be right back with Tiffany Loeffler of the Alliance right after we recognize the businesses supporting today's program. I was in the media business for over 35 years and had the great privilege of working with Runyon Saltzman, RSE, Marketing, Advertising, and Public Relations. We collaborated on many different campaigns, but their commitment to the nonprofit sector hasn't changed since their founder, Gene Runyon, started the agency. Over many years and many campaigns, Runyon Saltzman has been committed to improving lives by tackling California's most challenging issues. Guided by research-informed strategies and insightful, creative solutions, RSE develops innovative communications campaigns that raise awareness, educate, and reduce stigma in diverse communities throughout our state and beyond. To learn more about RSE, visit rs-e.com.
Hello, this is Scott Thomas with Cap Trust in our Sacramento office. I specialize in working with local nonprofits and associations. Annually, we survey private and public nonprofit organizations across the country to better understand challenges they see in today's environment. In our more recent survey, we heard concerns about proper board governance, mission-aligned investment, and how to implement alternative investments. If you would like a copy of the survey or to discuss your organization, look me up, Scott Thomas at captrust.com.
I'm thrilled to have Western Health Advantage partnering with us as they do so much to support so many nonprofit agencies in our community. As a truly local health plan, you'll find individual and family options, employer options, plans for CalPERS and Medicare Advantage. From medical services to pharmacy, health and wellness support, as well as behavioral health care, Western Health Advantage has a plan that fits what you need. As an employer, for profit or nonprofit business, individual or family, you can find more at westernhealth.com. So usually when I'm talking to the nonprofit or the executive leadership, it's like, well, how do you collaborate? You are the collaborator. In this case, it's not how do you. You are the collaborator, and you've addressed some of the points on the expectation for the organizations to work together because that's part of what you do. How does that happen?
Yes.
Because I'm sure some people are a little bit reluctant. They join. What's the benefit for me?
Right.
Well, there's a greater benefit. It's not just you.
Right. It's a bigger picture.
Yes.
But we tell every single member that's joining the Alliance, if you invest a little bit of your time and effort into coming to events, utilizing our resources, posting things on our database, attending the trauma conference, you will get back exponentially more than you put in. There is a small amount of member dues to join the Alliance that ranges from $100 a year to $600 a year. But we are a force multiplier. And so a really fun example, Children's Hope is one of our foster family agencies. They pay $600 a year in member dues. We fundraise for the remainder of the resources we provide. That equates to about us investing another $2,000 per organization per year.
Okay.
On all of the events, the software, the resources that we give. So it costs about $2,500 per organization. That being said, in the last year, Children's Hope has received 95 tickets to the zoo, 5 car seats, 26 beds, hundreds of backpacks. The tangible items alone, we calculated it added up to nearly $16,000 in donated items to them, and that didn't include any of the introductions, any of the support offered, or any of the trauma-informed education they received. And that's just this last year.
And some of that you can even use for your own fundraising for the organization, depending on what the opportunity is. If it's like a pair of King's tickets or whatever the tickets may be, you can put those online and do something with them that's certainly far greater than the existing value and face value of the tickets.
Yes, it can be philanthropic. Everything through our Love in Action database goes directly to the kids, but we also bring in amazing speakers. And so one of the events we just launched in 2024 was what we call Pro Workshops, where we're bringing top experts in to train up all of our members in fundraising, in marketing, in team development, in staff support, in emotional health. And so we're bringing in leaders in the community to, again, make our organizations more healthy and to allow them to learn new skills so that they can enhance their communication strategy or their next fundraiser. So they're, again, bringing in more money.
And I'm imagining the beauty of this today, at least, is that while there probably is still a virtual element to these things, there are also opportunities for people to congregate and gather.
Oh, let me tell you, yes.
We know is a big deal.
Yes, people want it. I mean, especially after the pandemic, now that we're reflecting back 3 years, people were anxious to be with each other again. We wanted to be safe. We wanted to protect people's health. But at the same time, that face-to-face connection is so important in building relationships. And so our favorite event of the year comes along every February. It's called A Night to Celebrate, and it's a member appreciation event where we invite all of the organizations that are part of the Alliance to come, and we're celebrating the work that they're doing right here in our community because they are all the difference makers. They're on the front lines day in and day out. And so I call this our red carpet awards ceremony without the awards because the Alliance doesn't play favorites. And so it's just a beautiful opportunity for all of them to get dressed up and to come to a lovely 3-course dinner. They're sitting at 3 different tables throughout the evening, so they're getting to collaborate. They all sit together with their team at the first table, but then we do make them get up and move tables so that they can meet a lot of new people in the community. They're sharing their top accomplishment from last year so we can celebrate, and they're sharing their top goal for the upcoming year so that people can speak into that and work on collaborating, and we can all know what's coming up in our community because of this event.
That's so neat. Now, is that something that is hosted, underwritten, or paid for by the organization?
We cover the cost alongside some very generous donors.
Okay.
Yes. It's free for our members to come.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
And we know the benefit of just sharing those stories amongst peers.
Yes.
Oh, you did that? What a great idea. I think I can do something like that. Can I reach out to you?
And they all bring their stack of business cards and they walk out, not just with contacts, but with friendships that are starting.
Yes. Well, and you're all in the same space too.
Yes.
So it's not like you're really disparate organizations. You know, one could be, you know, servicing seniors over here, and you got another one over here that's you know, high school youth.
Right.
There's not a whole lot of collaboration opportunity there, but when you get everything in the same space,
correct,
you're all dealing with the same issues all the time from different perspectives.
Exactly. It's all around kids. And so everybody has things that are either ideas that have worked for them, programs that could be used, or resources that could be shared. Hey, I have extra diapers, or I have, a drive coming up. And if we have surplus, do you need extra winter coats? I mean, this is an amazing community of sharing and collaboration because they're getting to know each other.
Yeah, or did you know? Did you know?
Let me introduce you to this person.
Happens so often with somebody sitting across from me in that chair. It's like, you're in Placer County.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing a story. I said, well, have you met? No, I haven't.
I'd love to introduce you. Yes.
Right? You need to talk to each other.
Right.
Your capacity is where they can support.
And you might have heard of that person, but if you don't have we know that doing the cold calls or the cold emails don't work.
Right.
That's why the Alliance is so unique, because we aren't doing any of that. We are in relationship with all of our members. We are creating relationship between members. And then those introductions are so simple when somebody who knows somebody personally connects them with somebody that they don't know, but that there's already relational buy-in.
Well, just amongst ourselves, we had the opportunity to judge the Sacramento Venture Philanthropy Group's Fast Pitch.
Yes.
And the connection on just the board of judges, having sat and talked and enjoyed each other's company and then gone through judging the actual pitch candidates.
Yes.
Created a different relationship that now we all can pick up the phone and say, hey, what about, did you see, hey, I got an idea, do you know?
Yes.
Whatever it is.
We had a shared experience.
Yes. And isn't that so valuable in person?
Yes, very much so.
So I think we've covered collaboration pretty well. And you did scratch the surface on membership. So that's one of the ways that you're generating revenue for the organization support.
It's a small amount. It's under 10% of our budget is member dues.
And that's what I wanted to ask you.
Kept it very
Let's
low.
Walk through what that is.
Yeah.
So it's membership, and then how else do you raise money to get the organization where it needs to be?
Yeah, some of our organizational education aspects have a cost. So there's a small cost for online courses. There's a small cost to come to the trauma conference. We just break even on those things. So those aren't necessarily generating revenue, but they are paying for themselves, which is amazing. The rest of the Alliance is supported by incredible business sponsors and individual donors in the community. And we are pass-through. So if somebody comes to us and say, I'm really passionate to give funding to refugees, we're going to introduce you to 10 different organizations that serve refugees that are in our network. Or I really have a passion for crisis pregnancy centers. Wonderful. I'd like to introduce you to the leaders of 2 different crisis pregnancy centers that I was, on a call with last week. Mm-hmm. But if you look at the opportunity, the Alliance allows donors to simplify and amplify their impact, because they can give if they like the big picture, or if they don't know where to give, then giving to the Alliance allows us to fund resources that support 100 other organizations. And we're going to multiply those donations and pay it forward. So we're helping the entire community.
Without having to get into the discussion of restricted, unrestricted, where does this go, and have a distribution of the actual funding itself, which is both valuable on that. And as the other is, it's just 2 very, very different ways of looking at collectively benefiting organizations.
Yep.
So what is the budget? What are you dealing with at this point now? What, 8 almost?
Yeah, we've grown
9 years?
substantially. I think we're going to end this year somewhere around $450,000 as our operating budget. We have big plans for growth and expansion next year. And so we're looking at next year having around a $600,000 operating budget.
That is amazing. And to have 100 organizations, that to me, aside from sometimes it makes my head hurt, because that's a lot of people to deal with.
I have a team of people with me. There's 9 of us on staff.
I was just going to ask, what is the size of the staff? Okay.
We're very relational, and so I definitely know those 100 organizations, but I am not in deep relationship with all of them because I have a team who is.
So let me ask you a fun question, and you've already scratched the surface of some of it. This is the one, budget's no option.
Oh.
Right? What would it look like if you didn't have to worry about the day-to-day and an actual budget? What would the Alliance be?
There are over 250 nonprofits serving vulnerable kids and families in the Sacramento area, and I would love to be in relationship and supporting all of them.
Well, shoot, you're almost halfway there.
Well, there's lots of churches, too. There's thousands of churches. So I would be happy with a network of 200 to 300 organizations. I just see so much more opportunities ahead. I could see us as we grow doing very county-specific things. And so there'll be networking in El Dorado County and networking in Yolo County and Placer and Sac opportunities. And we have the goal to add a job board so that as those organizations need to hire, there's a very clear space for people in the community who want to use their career knowledge or want want to work in the space of serving at-risk youth, they can check things out on a job board. We hope to launch a counselor and therapist directory, that app for member connections. We just hope to see that continue to grow. We're launching it next week, but I'd love to see hundreds, maybe thousands of people using that so that this collaborative movement, it doesn't stop or start with us. It's just absolutely ongoing all throughout the year.
You say job board and my eyes light up and everything, because I'm going to take a little shameless plug here for the podcast. When we started, I thought it was a marketing tool. Here's a marketing tool for you to use to tell your story in your words in a unique way that you really probably wouldn't spend the money on. So we do it pro bono, and it's underwritten by the sponsors. And that's where I kind of stopped. But it's been used in so many different ways. It's been attached to grants to give them a point of differentiation. And they say people are actually listening. They see themselves moving up and getting grant awards that they didn't get before.
Amazing.
Right? The second part that I heard, and this was just recently, for job recruits. We're using the podcast for recruiting. I said, I don't quite understand. Well, we have a job opening, job board at a particular organization. We may have 5, 6, 7 candidates. Send them the podcast. We don't have to take the time to explain the organization.
Beautiful.
That's done. If they show up and don't know about us, they didn't pay attention.
Right.
They aren't a candidate.
Right.
So we weeded out quickly and vetted those who care versus those who don't.
Find out who's a good active listener.
Right?
And hopefully they're also coming in with ideas or insights or observations from the podcast.
Especially on budget, no option. If I'm that candidate, I have a dream for this organization that I want to talk to. And you'll get stuff just out of those interviews that, I didn't think about that. So it just strikes me, and it's so rewarding to hear that people are using it in so many different ways.
Well done, Jeff.
This
is a pay it forward as well.
Right. And
That's
it's to say, if you are listening, as you hear that, use it that way because it's another tool for you to save you time.
Amazing.
Okay, now we're back to reality. The dream is today. What is the greatest need that you have?
We are growing. So it's a blessing, but it's also the greatest need that, like I mentioned, we're investing quite a bit more into every organization on an annual basis than they put in. We want them to have some skin in the game because that makes them more collaborative. But if anyone wants to join in this movement of generosity, we are always looking for new donors, new business sponsors who want to see this collaborative movement continue to grow alongside all of the organizations. So especially at year-end giving, but throughout the year, we have a monthly donation program. We have business sponsorship opportunities. We have a fantastic, generous community of business leaders that now get to collaborate with each other. We host events for them as well. And so it can be a place where your philanthropy also meets opportunities to network with other business leaders. And so again, the Alliance gets to be that hub for people in the community who want to see every child in a safe, loving home, but also want to connect with other people in the community that they could do business with or that they can, access for other resources.
What I like is because of the organization structure, it's like-minded. So when those sponsors come in, if you have that sponsor or when you have that sponsor event and they're all together, they all know why they're there. They all know what they've done in a particular situation.
Yes.
And sometimes it's challenging because the people who are sponsoring are extremely philanthropic. We have wonderful businesses in town that do that. And sometimes it's out there, but the coalition of those people that support the organizations doesn't ever connect.
Right. And so we create that into every one of our networking or fundraising events. There's a component of who else is in the room and connect with them and exchange some more business cards.
Well, and there's two things happening. There's the synergy of it, but you are at a point now over the course of the last 8 years to where you've gone from 50 to 100, you've doubled. Typically that's a geometric. The next change, it won't be 8, it'll be 4 before you double again, or less. And it's obviously just based on need, but as need presents itself for the organization, so does need for funding.
Absolutely.
In order to keep up with the expectations.
Right. We hope to add 30 new organizations next year. We also have seen in the last year to year and a half, this has been a really hard time for nonprofit leaders. There's been some very difficult legislative changes in California that have made staying open more expensive or more difficult. We've seen the trauma in kids go up. As I mentioned earlier, the pre-pandemic rates were 50%, and now it's 66%. We're also seeing a lot of leader burnout. And so one of my big passion points for the years to come are to create those places where leaders can get extra support, where we're doing connection events for executive directors, providing additional tools, but also a safe place for them to share the state of their heart and the state of their organization, where it's a vulnerable space, but there are no detriments to sharing. We can't necessarily share as an executive director. We're not going to share with our donor base or with our staff when we're having a really hard time, but we need to share that somewhere, and we need to share it with like-minded people. I mean, I'm sure all of our spouses know when we're having a hard day, but we want to share it with others that can be encouraging, others that have walked through hard things before and come out on the other side stronger and better. And so offering those spaces, especially to executive directors, is one of my passions for this coming year.
And so necessary. And we have some of the executive directors who have been 15, 18, 20, 25, 30 years
decades
in those organizations. And that intellectual equity, experiential equity is so valuable.
We cannot let them burn out.
We can't let them burn out because we need to share what they know for those who are coming in behind them.
Right.
That's just wonderful stuff. The work you guys are doing, you literally are walking the walk. And I need to add something here because we talked about the children in the beginning.
Yes.
Since 2021, something else has changed. It's not just two children.
Yep. We added a third one to the mix. My husband and I had a biological child in 2023. So he's now 20 months old. He's lots of fun. I was a little bit apprehensive in the sense that I didn't want our older kids to feel like they were less than, or that we were finally having a child that looked like us. Because from Haiti, my older two kids don't look like me.
Yes.
And so it was just amazing that the exact opposite occurred. As they got to experience a baby in their lives, they, for the first time, were seeing how babies should be cared for and how they should be loved and how they should be nurtured. And they didn't witness that in the orphanage at all.
Right.
And so they had no paradigm and no model for healthy parenting at the young stages of life because we missed those little ages. And so I'm seeing trauma healed in my older kids as they're watching us love their younger brother and as they're loving their younger brother. And so it's they were in an orphanage with 85 kids. So they were used to lots of kids. That part was fine and easy, and they like littles. But getting to see love and getting to witness how connection and attachment are built on those early 0 to 2 age, that attachment foundation is so vital before kids turn 2 years old. And I think my older two missed most of those opportunities. And so there's a little bit of repair and healing now, even as they're witnessing it for our son, Riley.
Oh, they get to see it and experience it, and in such a unique situation and a unique setting where they have both parents who are loving and caring and considerate, and they've had the benefit of their years with you first.
Yes, exactly.
And now they see it starting
over again. Yeah, so I do have toddlers and teenagers, which is a little crazy. I think I have a few more gray hairs, but it's a wild and crazy ride we're on, but we're enjoying it.
Well, it's so neat to see the enthusiasm that you got. I remember saying something about it in the last conversation we had 3 years ago. You've had your cup of coffee. Here we are again. It's an early morning session. You've had your cup of coffee. And I just love what you bring to the conversation and the passion you've got for the community and for the communities that you serve. And that really exemplifies the fact that it's about mending broken families.
Yes.
And we know it's such a big part of life today. And the kids are the unfortunate recipients of those broken families.
Right.
And that just continues to perpetuate itself if we don't break that cycle in so many different ways. So thank you for what you're doing with the Alliance. What a neat organization, and so cool to see that you've doubled. Congratulations on the family.
Thank you.
And I appreciate what you and your team have been doing, and keep it up.
Thanks, Jeff. Thank you so much for having me back.
Thanks, Tiffany. Thank you for listening to the Nonprofit Podcast Network. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If what you heard moved you, please reach out to that organization and do what you can to help. If you like and appreciate what we're doing to support local nonprofits, please give us a positive review, subscribe, and share. If you're a nonprofit with an interest in participating in an episode, you can reach me at jeff@hearmenowstudio.com. If you have a need for the services or products our sponsors offer, please reach out to them. Cap Trust, fiduciary advice for endowments and foundations, Runyon Saltzman Incorporated, RSE, marketing, advertising, and public relations creating integrated communications committed to improving lives, and Western Health Advantage, a full-service healthcare plan for individuals, employer groups, and families. The Nonprofit Podcast Network is a production of, is recorded at, and edited by Hear Me Now Studio.